Recently, I've been learning such an important lesson, and I really wanted to share some of the things that have been coming out of it for me. I think like when you go through a harder time in your life, that's when you learn the most. And I'm really trying to hold on to that and remind myself of that and to stay positive, and try and see I've been trying to really see the lesson that I'm trying to learn from this. And that's such a huge thing for me in my life is like anything that happens, anything that I go through, I try to see the lesson that life is trying to teach me because that's what I personally believe we're all here for. I believe like we have our soul and then we have our experience in like our human body on this earth. And our soul is here to learn some kind of lesson, and it does that through its experience as a human. Um, and so recently, what's been going on is I've just been going through such a hard time for a long time. It feels like over a year, maybe even over 2 or 3 years. Things have been super hard, and sometimes they get better and sometimes they get worse, but like consistently, things have not felt good. And I just find myself constantly praying to God to give me a break, like to give me like a good period of time in my life to finally like rest and relax and feel good. And I feel like I'm constantly asking for that, but it's just not happening, and I couldn't figure out why. I'm still not quite sure why, but I'm trying to reframe it and think of a new way to view this so that I'm not feeling so negative about it. And so I really had to sit down with myself and think like, what are the lessons that I've been learning and what is continuing to resurface? And honestly, in thinking of this, I found that the way that I view my life and my problems and my anxiety is a huge problem for me in my life. It's probably my number one problem. Is that I always try and fix the problem. I always look at my life in such like a black and white external way. Like I think of like my human life and I think, all right, what's the problem in my life? What can I fix? And I do always end up fixing the problem because that's who I am. I get things done and I always figure it out in the end. But I don't feel better when I fix the problem. I really don't. Like when there's problems in my life, when I'm going through things, when I'm working on something, like I fix it and there's a moment of relief, but it really never heals anything deep inside of me. And I always find something else that becomes the next problem. Even if I'm in a period of time where things are like really easy and I'm doing really well, I'll ruminate on something and create a problem out of something very small. And it's funny because like the hardest times in my life sometimes feel the easiest because I have less anxiety about arbitrary things because there's like a huge problem and I know that I can focus all my anxieties on that. So I'm like less worried about random things, trying to make a problem out of nothing. I find that I often do that. I'm often trying to make a problem out of nothing. And in thinking of that, I realized that so much of my suffering just comes from my like internal dialogue and my internal experience. Like I realized that my anxiety is just it's so internalized. It comes from inside me. And it starts from different things in your life, but a lot of the time like I'm creating it. I'm creating this fear and this worry and this suffering, and I'm creating it out of nothing. And I thought about it, and the idea that I have in my head is like, all right, when I fix all my problems, the anxiety goes away. Then I think about it more and I realize when I fix one problem, I always find another problem. And then I sort of think like, all right, is this just like a time in my life where things are like really difficult and I have a lot of problems? And then I think about the times that were good and how I created problems out of nothing. And I kind of realized that it's not really about like the external things that are happening in my life. It's about my internal experience of them. It's how I'm experiencing my life. Like I am experiencing normal problems and struggles that happen in life in like an extreme exacerbated way. Like I'm creating this huge anxiety over things that honestly some people probably wouldn't care about. And that's not to like minimize my problems or anything like that. It's just to say, like, do I really need to suffer every day? Like, does life have to be like that? And is that the lesson that I need to learn right now? Like, am I creating my own suffering? And is the lesson that I need to learn to be able to like sit in my life in any state that it is without forcing myself to suffer? And that was so important for me to think about, because I don't know, it was the other weekend and I was at the beach and I just could not enjoy my time at all because I was constantly worrying about work and my problems in my life. And I was like, wow, this is like really awful. Like right now I'm here in this moment that's supposed to be good, and this like internal experience that I'm having is just like so awful. And I thought about it and I was like, all right, when has this also happened in my life in like another way? And I think, you know, life, I mean, it is like a spiritual experience for us, but like it is even more than you realize. Like my soul is here in my body living this life, and like, yeah, the things that happen around me in my life are like important, but like overall my human life is like actually not that important what happens, because there is like lessons that our soul needs to learn, and like we're here as humans to learn those lessons, but like the experience of being a human like isn't really necessary to learn those lessons at the end of the day. Like we could learn those lessons in other like spiritual forms, in other universes, in other ways, and also just like on this earth, you know, I could have a totally different life. And that's why we have so much choice as to like where our life goes. Like my decisions that have led me here, like, you know, the decisions we make in life are like pretty quick. Like there's a lot of decisions to make and things can go a lot of different ways. And so like life isn't exactly about like the problems that you're facing like in your direct life. Like it's not about that, because if you think about your soul as like a higher being, like are the things that happen in your daily life actually that important? Like they aren't, because there's so many other ways that your life could happen. And so what's important is like the overall message, the bigger picture, how you're like existing and experiencing this life. And so for me, like constantly trying to solve like my human life problems and ruminating on those, and like, you know, it's hurting me so much. It's giving me so much anxiety. And I'm like, what lesson am I trying to learn? Like, why did these problems keep coming up? And I realized that like the actual like tangible problems that happen in my life aren't the lesson that I'm trying to learn. And like, I don't know why I couldn't realize that before. I'm getting really upset right now, honestly, because things have been really hard. But like, yeah, my day-to-day problems are like not the lesson I'm trying to learn. And I've been beating them to death, like trying to figure out, all right, what's wrong with me? What am I doing wrong? Like, why am I living my life wrong? Like, what's happening? And like, my life, like, in itself is actually like not that important. Like, what's happening? It's like genuinely not that important. My experience of my life is what's important. And I'm not experiencing my life in a good way right now. Like, I am blowing things out of proportion, getting really upset about like small things, ruminating on stuff. And that is the lesson, is like increasing my like comfortability and tolerance, like existing in my life. The lesson is not to fix my anxieties or live my life differently. I'm not doing something wrong as a human. I'm not like making the wrong decisions. There's really no right decision. What's the lesson is like how I'm experiencing my life. And I'm experiencing my life in a really bad way right now, but it's not about like my external life, it's my internal experience. And I am like torturing myself over any small problem that comes up, ruminating, blowing things out of proportion, torturing myself, constantly finding something to fear. And that is the lesson, is to be able to like increase my tolerance for my experience as a human, to just be able to like sit with these feelings and to not like explode them into something so much bigger than it needs to be. I need to figure out how to exist without constantly feeling tortured, basically, because it's not about my life at the end of the day, it's about how I'm reacting to my life. And that, it just like really makes me think about those people who just like seem so happy and free and seem to enjoy their lives so much. And when you think about those people, you know, some of them are doing really well. Some of them have a lot of money, good family, good friends, like a if you look at their life from an outside, you think, oh, their life is really good, makes sense why they're so happy. And then other people who are like that have such like objectively awful lives. Like things are going really bad for them, they've been through so much, and you just are like, how is that person still like that? And in the past I was like, oh, it must be like the way that they grew up, like the way that they learned from their family, stuff like that. But you know, I always thought like, why can't I feel that way? And I would think, well, it's the way I grew up, I've just always been anxious, like bad things have happened, like this is just who I am. And it's actually not. Like I am experiencing my life in a way that I don't have to. Like I don't have to suffer in my life every day. Nobody does. I mean, you know, yeah, I don't have to suffer as a human in this experience if I don't want to. And I don't want to. And, you know, it might take a while to get to the point of not suffering in my life. But the point is that I realized that I'm creating this experience. I'm not creating like the world around me and like what happens around me, but I'm creating my internal experience of it. And like, I really want that to be different. And I think that's my lesson, is like realizing that like I can't actually make that internal experience different, because I don't want it to be like this and it doesn't feel good. And the way that I realize that is like every time I solve a problem in my life or something is different, something else comes up. And so it never seems to get any better. And when you keep beating a dead horse and doing the same thing over and over again and it's not getting better, like you have to think about, all right, what other options do I have? And right now this is my other option, is trying to see my life in a different way and to not constantly torture myself and suffer. And at the end of the day, things are going to happen the way that they happen. You know, bad things will happen, good things will happen. I don't want to suffer through all of that. Why am I suffering through the good and the bad? And do I have to suffer through the bad? Like, does it have to be that way? Or can I just accept what happens and learn from it? So this is my lesson right now, I think. That's what I'm taking from it. That's what I'm going to take from it. I'm going to run with it and see what happens. And maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but at the end of the day, you know, the point is that I'm trying to suffer less. And I think that's really important. And I don't think fixing my problems in my life is going to make me suffer less, because there's always another problem. And, you know, life is full of problems. And you can solve them, but like, how much do you really learn from a human problem at the end of the day? How much do you really learn from like this like random life that your soul is like in? Like, I don't think that much. I think it's a lot more important like how you experience things versus like what actually happens for you. And so I'm super emotional about this because honestly life has really sucked recently, but I'm gonna try and see it in a more positive way, and to stop torturing myself when I don't need to torture myself, and to start to try and just let things happen and see where they go. And maybe that's the lesson that I'm trying to learn right now. Because it doesn't seem like things are getting better, and so there's something that I'm missing. And that's what I think it could be. And so I'm really gonna try hard to work on that. And I just wanted to share this because I feel like I learned something important. I wonder if anyone else has learned a similar lesson, and if you have had success with it, that might make me feel better hearing that it went good for someone else. But I'm gonna try it anyways, regardless of if people have positive or negatives with this, because I think it's important for me. I think this is something really important for me to work on, is just like not torturing myself in my life and like yeah. Working on my internal experience versus my external life, I think, is super important right now. So I did want to share that. And if you can relate at all, or if you have any advice or comments, please share with me. All right. Thank you.